Adapting to normal is like my brainchild.
Hello, hi everybody. It's Howells, it's Mary. Just checking in. Haven't done a video in a very long time. It's been a lot going on. Recently I started my master's program, so that's one thing. And just all the preparation that was going on into that. But July is Disability Pride Month, and I just feel like I had to say something. I had to come on here and talk. Things are moving. They're moving a little bit slowly. I will have some more videos. I have my All About Me. I plan on doing this a little bit more now that I have more of my setup. Now I kind of know my schedule, even though school will be starting back, and I will technically be a student teacher. Um, yeah, I'm still gonna figure it out. I mean, slowly but surely. So this is me recording. This is my domicile. This is my room. Over on this side, y'all can see a beautiful coloring rendering from my god baby Delilah of Bluey. But anyway, we're shipping in here today just because I just wanted to get something out. I wanted to shoot, and yeah, that's what we're doing. So I have notes. I'm trying. Okay, I am out here trying to stay on topic and still be me. So anyway, um, we're gonna be talking about disability, DEI, the big beautiful bill, natural selection, just things that I've been pondering about. That's been going through my mind. You guys know me, from last time. You might see me look here, look there. This is nerve-wracking for me being in front of the camera, but it's something that I feel like I should do. Like I told you before, when something is your calling, you're gonna keep coming back to it. All right, so like I said, happy Disability Pride Month. Disability is a part of my identity. My identity markers. I'm 45, disabled. I'm black. I'm a female. So yeah, it is what it is. Those are my identity markers, and I take pride in my blackness. I take pride in my being a woman, and I take pride in my disability because why not? Things happen. That's something that I have to deal with. But guess what? It is what it is. And as you can see, my disability is visible. I don't know if you see Betsy back here. You see my chair. So yeah. And as always, this is adapting to normal. So welcome. And let's just dig in. I have my notes. I'm going to be looking down. I'm going to be looking around. But these are things that we need to talk about. So let's talk about the history of disability rights. So in one of my courses, we were charged with watching a documentary called Crip Camp. Crip Camp is about a camp in New York in the 70s where all the patrons of this camp were disabled. And from this camp came many disability activists. And we can talk about how disability rights, they're there, but they're not enforced. And civil rights was happening around this time, but disability rights are even newer. And like I said, they're not really enforced. But just think about it. Back in the 60s, 70s, if you had seen me with this physical disability, I didn't have the right to go to school. I could go to the hospital and be very sick. And if they didn't have an elevator or a way for me to get inside the hospitals, there were steps, whatever. Unless I could pull myself up the stairs or somebody would pull me up the stairs, I couldn't get in. If I wanted to go to a public building, let's say a library, if there was no access, there was no access. It was just a big old well. Um, so it's crazy to me. It's also very crazy to me that disabled people are in every single race, every single sexuality, um, in every community. Yet they are some of the most marginalized and powerless in the community because everybody either feels like they're useless, or they don't care to see the value. People tend to want to feel sad. And I mean, I'm going to keep it above 50. I'm sad for most people. There's people who are able-bodied that I'm very sad for because I do more in a day than they accomplish in a week. And that just is what it is. So it's like they're feeling sad for me, but they live some sad, sad lives. But you see my wheelchair and you automatically want to awe when I'm awing at you. And that's just what it is. It's a sad thing that happened. Yeah, it's sad that I've been in a chair since I was a kid. But I don't live a sad life. I travel. I have great friends. I have great family. I pursue my degrees. I'm funny. As you can see, I'm pretty. So there's a lot of things. Like, I don't understand. There's things that happen and I have different pain, all kind of stuff. But I don't live a sad existence. And my existence is not something that should be pitied. And I think people look at disability and assume that you're incapacitated or you're invalid. And that's just not okay. So let's talk about some of these laws. Let's run down some real quick. So the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, that's like Section 504. So it prohibits discrimination based on disability and programs receiving federal funding. So if you get any kind of coin from the feds, basically, you should not be discriminating against the disabled. And that's whether it is for school, for jobs, or just access, period. The IDEA Act guarantees free, appropriate public education to students with disability. One day we're going to talk about my experience in school, and we're going to talk about LAUSD, how they failed me over and over and over again. But pause, let's put a pin in that. Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. So by my age, telling you that I was 45 earlier, you know that I was in school when this came. And by the time I graduated in 98, there was still not too much difference. Just to let you know. But that was a civil rights law banning discrimination against disabled people in all public and private places, open to the general public. And then we'll have the Olmstead decision in 1999 Supreme Court ruling that unjustified segregation of people with disability is a form of discrimination. That's deep too, because I had really no other issues other than me being paralyzed. So I was always in regular classes. Yeah. But most of my time in school, I probably was the only mainstream person with a disability. Yeah. You know, that says a lot. And most of the schools that I was in. So, there's that. Anyway, so let's continue. One of the things I wanted to talk about was DEI. And the only reason I want to bring up DEI is because people clearly have no idea what DEI is. People are thinking DEI is the same as affirmative action. And then they're also thinking that DEI means you hire those who are not qualified. That is not DEI. Let's get that together. DEI actually benefited white women more than any demographic. Just saying. Also, DEI was more about the good old boy mentality. Now, the good old boy mentality had a lot of nepotism, and then it had a lot of whiteness. It had a lot of white supremacy going on. And that was, they would hire the incompetent, hiring your homies. I'm a big WWE fan. I love WWE. But as an educator, Vince's wife is not qualified. But her homie gave her the job. This is what DEI is supposed to help with. Period. So it wasn't about hiring unqualified candidates. It was giving opportunity to qualified candidates who might not have gotten the opportunity if there wasn't checks and balances and quotas. Anyway, I had to kind of talk about that because people now are shying away from DEI, and that's going to affect veterans. That's going to affect the disabled, people who might not have gotten a fair shake because they are disabled. And I want to say this. Those who are disabled and can work want to work. If their bodies are allowing them to be able, they want to work. But it was crazy to me how when COVID hit, things that they have been telling disabled people wasn't possible, all of a sudden was very possible. Oh no, you can't work from home. Because sometimes disabled people just ask for a reasonable accommodation. And a reasonable accommodation could be, hey, I know I work 5 days a week, but can I work in office 4 and out of office 1? Because whatever their job title is, some things can be done from home. Oh, no, we cannot do that. That is not something that we can do. We can't give you a computer. We can, you can't have meetings at home. You can't do any of this. But the minute the able-bodied world needed that accommodation, it was possible. It was possible like that. That's wild. But hey, who am I? You could have made that accommodation years ago for other people. But anyway, just saying. There's a lot of language with the Big Beautiful Bill that some is hard to process. I have to get into it. But I know it dismantles Section 503, enforcement around the hiring goals for federal contractors. And that is going to hurt a lot of disabled people who were qualified but got it in because there are certain advantages to hiring disabled, whether it was taxes or funding. And if it's dismantling that, it's going to leave some people on the lurch. It is very hard to survive off of SSV, SSI, whatever federal funding or state funding that people are out here screaming about, the disabled or the elderly getting these benefits. If you think that $1,200, let's just say $1,200, for some people, that is not even what they're getting a month, is really helping someone who lives in California, you're out your rabbit ass mind. I mean, no, you're not covering rent. If you like to eat, it helps, but it's not covering people's lives. So if you're going to be anything, be for real. People who are already having a hard time are basically given the bottom of a barrel to survive. It's a part of natural selection. If those who are sick and who should be eating better because they do have these ailments, but they don't have the money for anything other than processed and fast food because that's what's cheaper. It's easier to buy a McDouble than it is to buy a head of lettuce or tomatoes or any kind of produce. Then living accommodations. Sometimes people have to always live with family, so they always have to depend on family. Or they have to live in places that are really not suitable for them because they don't have the money for other things. And the government is really funny because they talk down on those who need their support. But then they penalize them for trying to work and do better or to get out of that rut. I don't know. That to me that's a cycle or it is a form of oppression to keep someone who's already marginalized, so someone who already has a lot of things going on, to keep having them going on. I don't know what people think. I don't know how they think people who are disabled are making it, but trust me, their government assistance is not making them rich by any means. You are taxed more because you're disabled. You have to go to the doctor more. You have all these co-pays. If I want to drive a car, I can't go to the lot like you all can and just get a car, a used car or whatever. I don't have the options. Honda, Dodge, and Chrysler are not making accessible cars roll off the lot, so they are not priced as high as these other cars. So what you would pay for a Dodge, put 30 to 40,000 on top of that. And that's what people who are disabled, especially with wheelchair users, are paying for cars. So yeah, wheelchairs. Insurance fights you so hard for something that you need, but it's not. You guys act like everything's just given. Medical supplies. There's been times where I had to try to buy my medical supplies out of pocket because I'm arguing with an insurance company, especially since 2020. And before then, under certain administrations where I was able to pre-existing condition, everything that I needed was a harder fight. Needed more documentation. Needed extra paperwork just for things, and I've always had insurance. I mean, to the point where I was paying out of the pocket for insurance because Nobody got time to be arguing back and forth about Medi-Cal and what they will approve and what they won't approve. I just don't think that people understand mentally when you're going through whatever ailments you have. A lot of times, your initial diagnosis starts being scaffolded with other things. Because initially I'm paraplegic, but now I have chronic fatigue syndrome. I'm anemic. Sometimes I have issues with breathing. It's all kind of things because sitting in a wheelchair for most of your life, the way you grow, the way your body is, and having to sit all the time, your organs are different in different places. Like, it's crazy. So on top of just trying to live, I have to fight with insurance companies. I have to try to figure out how to pay for this. I have to learn how to adapt because most houses are not accessible for me. So I have to try to figure it out. The way most people can just up and move, I cannot up and move. I have to, when I say go into a house, see if my chair can fit through a door. Can I turn around in this bathroom? How is the toilet? How is the bathtub arranged? Can I turn around in the kitchen? Getting in the front door. Oh, do I have a ramp for this door? Like, there's so many other things. I have, let's see, I'm counting up how much all my ramps cost. I have probably about $1,000 in ramps around my house. Not to mention a $200 one that I have at my sister's house in LA. So when I go down to LA, if I need to get in people's house, I can bring that ramp. Little things like that, people have no idea. Yeah, in my car, I have a $100 ramp. That's a shorter ramp for one step or something, thresholds, just in case. Because I have going to public places that are not accessible, but if they have under a certain amount of employees, they don't have to be. Yeah. It's a lot, but natural selection is about survival of the fittest. And disabled people are already at a disadvantage. So we have to have the determination and grit just to live in a world that sees us as leeches, sucking off the system. Just I am trying to make sure that my words are just wording and I'm not getting frustrated, but people have no idea how hard it is sometimes mentally just to get up in the morning. And then you go into a world full of dumbasses who see your disability and not you. And now you have to process that. Or you go into establishments that like to say they're wheelchair accessible, but in all, their services are not. I just went to get my eyes checked. The place is technically wheelchair accessible. They both being wheelchair accessible online. They both being wheelchair accessible through the insurance. And I kind of remember when I called, they said they were accessible. But what they did not say is, in order to get my eyes checked, I have to sit in this chair. This chair does not move around for my chair to come back in, and there's no space on both sides of the chair where I can back my chair in and move and transfer over into their chair. So therefore, your establishment is not wheelchair accessible. It just means I can get in, but it's not accessible for a wheelchair user. Like, there's so many things that I can just keep going on and on about as far as the world not being made for me. And a world that doesn't care that it's not made for me. Well, I'm always adapting for it. And even with laws, they're not being forced to adapt for me. Yeah. But we'll start talking about compliance and accessibility at another time. Because today, I don't even want to hold you on that one. We watched something, Captain America, the new one, the Falcon series or whatever. And he was talking about who was in the room. And when they make all these laws and they're in there fighting the good fight for the disabled, who's in the room? Are there a bunch of able-bodied voices speaking for the disabled? Or do you have a plethora of disabled people and they're speaking for themselves? And those who are able-bodied who do the policy taking notes. Who's in the room? Who's there? Because let me tell you how I know that a person in a wheelchair is not there when you start talking about ADA and compliance. A bathroom. Making a bathroom a little bit bigger, the stalls in some of these places does not make it accessible. If I can't roll in, do a 3-point turn, it's not accessible. If you make one side of the toilet larger so a chair can fit in there if a person is transferring, then you need to make the handle of the toilet on that same side. Why? Trust me. That's all you need to know. Trust me. It needs to be on that same side. Because when it's on the other side, either we have to reach over far to grab it. It's just trust me on this. It should be on the same side. When the sink is accessible. And I know you guys like to put those new slant things underneath the sink so people don't have to see the plumbing underneath. I get it. Aesthetically, that makes sense. But a person in a wheelchair rolls underneath there, and so that slant, the top of the slant right here, is hitting my knees. So I can't roll all the way under there to wash my hands. It's pretty, but it's not functional. Yeah, I mean, I can go through a bunch of things, and you wouldn't think about it because it's not your problem. So if you're an able-bodied person who hasn't done the research by talking to those who need the accommodations, you will have no idea. Hotels. It's very trendy to have high beds or sleigh beds, but guess what? In a disabled room, it's idiotic. If the bed is up to my fucking shoulder, how the hell do I get in it? If the bed is down middle of my wheel, technically I can get down in it. But when it's on a sleigh, it's not connected or have a frame to hold that mattress in. So when I push, because I have to do a depression to get up because I don't walk. So when I use a depression to get up to pop back into my chair, the mattress moves. Mary, how do you know this? Because I was at a hotel in Texas and the mattress moved. I slept. But I was in disabled room. Gotta make it make sense. But I promise you, these hotels, Marriott, Hilton, Choice, whoever, doesn't have a disabled person on the board to talk these things. Hence the sink, hence the roll-in showers. If you're gonna have a roll-in shower, you gotta have a bench. Because are we rolling in our electric chairs? Or are manual wheelchairs in the shower? They should have backs on them. Because a lot of people who are in wheelchairs don't have the core strength to sit up. But if you would ask someone in a wheelchair and hire someone on staff to do ADA who actually knows about ADA because they live it, might do a little bit better. And I can only speak about me. And I can tell you about visual disabilities because I deal with mobility issues. And I know there's so many others, but let's make it make sense. That's why I said you should have people there with different disabilities so it could be completely inclusive. Nothing is equitable unless it's equitable for all. It's not inclusive unless it's inclusive for all. It's not. And it's crazy to me how people will get out in those streets and fight for everything except something that makes you uncomfortable. We are not represented in the media. Might be a little token disabled person, but we're not leads. We're not, nobody wants to see us hug or kiss somebody. I love Glee. I love it. But the minute I seen Arnie, I knew he was an able-bodied person. But I love that they tried. I love the representation. But there's people in wheelchairs who can sing and dance and remember their lines from their chairs. I'm just saying, I got a mean wheelchair twerk. So, but because of the way disability is viewed, people feel sad instead of empowered that a person in their chair is living their best lives. One of the things I tell kids when I meet them is, do I seem sad to you? No, Miss Mary, you don't. I start talking to them about everything that I've done from my chair. Cheerleading, going to school, just living my life, all the places that I've been. And I ask the kids, does that make you sad? Does it seem like everything is going wrong? No. It seems like, you live a good life. Okay, then. So when you see someone who's disabled, don't assume that they're just living a sad existence. And I think that's how you have to focus. It's like, I don't know how many minds I can change with adults, but with children, that's where you start at, because maybe they can do better. Like I said, it's a lot of people out here who feel bad for me, but their mindset is so sad and pathetic that my heart breaks for them every day. Yeah. let me get back to my notes. Cause I told y'all I'm out here with notes. Let me think how I want to put this. Sometimes the voice of your oppressors, and I call oppressors anyone who does anything that's oppressive to another. So it's not necessarily white people. It's not a race. It's not a gender. But sometimes the masses embedding you a seed that sometimes make you hate yourself or feel bad about who you are. Sometimes I find myself apologizing over and over and over when I'm like, hey, that door over there, that's the only way that I can get in the building. Because someone opened that for me and then they take 15 minutes or whatever they do to find that person, open that door, and I'm just so apologetic. I am just so sorry, you know. Why am I apologizing for speaking up for myself? Because the front of this building is not accessible and the other side is, and I ask somebody to do their damn job. But I find myself doing that. I find myself, when I used to get on the bus, like apologizing when I'm getting on the bus because I was like, you know, when the bus driver comes and they let the ramp down, you know, it adds on an extra 5 minutes to people commute. I don't give a fuck. I shouldn't have given a fuck because, like, oh well, we all trying to get somewhere. At that point, I was trying to get to work too. Leave earlier. Hell. And I would be like, oh my bad, I'm so sorry. Why was I sorry? Why was I apologizing for something that I needed? Do they get on the fucking bus and apologize for taking their time walking on and sitting down? No. But I found myself doing that. I do. I find myself apologizing when I go into storage at different places and the aisles are not that accessible and I'm either moving something over or something. Why? Why am I apologizing for living my life? Like, yeah. Anyway, I've been in places and spaces where even the handicap sections don't make sense. And I'm always like hating to ask for help because I don't want to seem needy. I don't want to seem like with my chair, I can't do it. I go into situations giving 150% because I feel like I'm fighting 3 demons. I'm already a female, I'm already black, and then I'm disabled. So with all of these things, I don't want to look weak. I don't want to look unprepared. I don't want to look incapable. So I'm always pushing to be the smartest, the funniest, sometimes the biggest voice in the room. Because I feel that I should be silent. I should be seen and not heard, but why? Why? Because I'm in this chair? But those are things that are ingrained in me that I'm supposed to feel. And I just can't do that. I'm over that. I'm done with that. You know, when I was younger, the things that I went through, and I'm just gonna say this. I went to Fairfax High School for 2 years. I graduated. I was a cheerleader. I bought my ticket to grad night. I got there and there wasn't no bus for me and another gentleman who was in a wheelchair. The fuck? The buses drove off with grown ass advisors on the bus, leaving us outside. I was a kid. I wasn't able to raise that type of hell. But as an adult, you play with me like that, and you might as well call the police. Because when it comes to my rights, when it comes to me being treated fairly, I'm going to speak up. I'm going to flip some shit on you. You might as well call the popo right now. Give them my whole name and tell them where I live. Just saying. Just saying, I'm just saying, I'm just saying. I'm disabled. I pay taxes. And I vote. I teach. I'm a mentor. And I do all these things. And I'm not here for people's inspiration. I don't care if you're inspired by me. If you are, that's great. I hope it's because I am an awesome individual. Not because you're looking at me and be like, damn, she does all of that from a wheelchair. If the roles were reversed, if you were the person in the wheelchair, I'm going to keep it 100 grand with you. I don't think you would make it. Mentally, I don't think you would be there. But, thank you. Like, that's how I feel sometimes when people put that caveat on me being inspiring to them. That if I could do it, so could they. Bitch, do you know how much work this takes? It takes a lot of work to just be fly, walking around. Do you know how much work it takes to be fly, educated, and all that other shit in a wheelchair? While you living at a 4 in pain? Leave me the hell alone. But thank you. I'm glad I inspired you. But, you know, I don't want to be people's lesson of overcoming. I take the compliment and I get it. I get it. Trust me, I do. But I don't think people see all the work that goes in there. I don't think people see that I got my degree, working on my degree. I turned in the paper damn near on my deathbed. So we are not the same. You know, I don't know. But I'm gonna wrap that little part up, but we need to figure out who's in the room when some of these decisions and these policies are made. And we need to have more diversity in media, in boardrooms, because there's qualified disabled people out there. I promise you. The problem is that America has this antiquated and jaded and quite ignorant thought process on what disability looks like. And because of that, seeing it brings, for some strange reason, this feeling of instead of yeah, that's what's up, and that's a problem, and that's a you problem. That's not a us problem. That's a you problem. Get your shit together. Period. Anyway, I'm going through my little notes. I mean, I'm almost finished because I'm tired, and I got school tomorrow. We talked about invisible disabilities, chronic illness, mental disorders, neurodivergence. Those are invisible. Visible disabilities usually are the object of pity. Stop that. Just stop that. Like I can't say that any more, but stop that. Pity yourself. Pity yourself in your mindset. Be upset with the fact that your thought process is lacking. That you can't see that there are those who are disabled who have joy, who have a valuable existence, who life doesn't garner your judgment. I don't need your judgment. I don't give a fuck what you think. I'm a people person who does not like people for those very reasons. People are weird. And I'm just not a fan. It sounds crazy as hell, but I'm not a fan. I love kids. Adults give me pause. Because these deep-seated stereotypes and these deep-seated ways that they have, most adults do not want to do the work to get better. And that's crazy to me. I reevaluate who I am all the time. I think about my biases. I think about my stereotypic attitudes toward certain people. I think about that. I learned to consider the source. I learned to consider people as individuals, not as a whole or group or community, because I want to be a better person. And in order for me to get on here and try to educate people or just give people my perspective from my chair, I have to be willing to meet them where they are. And yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna leave that where it is, but I told you guys about Crip Camp. It's on Netflix. I promise you, if you watch it, it'll change the way you're thinking. You'll see the strength in the disabled community. Because think about it, there were disabled people who did a big sit-in, and these are people who need attendance, who have to have different medicines, all kinds of different things going on. And some of them did a hunger strike, but they stayed and they occupied this building for days, weeks, until their voices were heard. And I mean, it was turning the water off on them, all kinds of stuff. but they persevered, all in their disabled bodies, in their chairs, muscular dystrophy, MS, like everything going on. Some were blind. Like when I say a plethora, cornucopia, if you will, of different disabilities, and they're real allies. Because some of y'all always talk about y'all are ally, and y'all don't know what allyship is. But I don't have time to dig deep into that. But they stood with them, and it was a Halloween event. So you should watch that Crip Camp, CRIP Camp. It's on Netflix, and you'll see the strength in those that some take pity on. I mean, this one gentleman was talking about how his dream job, they didn't have access for him. He was in a wheelchair. He was pulling himself and his chair up a flight of stairs. There's able-bodied people who will leave if they don't have a seat. There's able-bodied people who will quit a job because they didn't provide them a pen. And this man was pulling his body and his chair up a flight of stairs. Anyway, it's July, and in June for Pride Month, you see the logo everywhere. Everywhere. Rainbow flags everywhere. July, Pride Month, I bet most of y'all didn't even know that it was Disability Pride Month because it doesn't get any representation. You know Black History Month. You know when it's Latino Heritage Month. You know when it's Asian Pan Pacific. You know all this. The Disability Pride Month includes all those different people. And most people have no idea. Anyway, I don't really have a call to action today other than own it. If you're disabled, own it. Be okay with it. Live in your truth. If it calls for you to get loud, be loud. Be seen. You do not have to shrink. You are not a wallflower. You don't know anybody's silence. Hunker down. I know with the way things are going with this administration, it looks like it is made to take the disabled out with insurance and cuts and budgets and all of that. I don't know a lot of things, but I know one thing. God is real. God is real. And I don't know what deity guides your life. I don't care, that's not my business. But whatever you believe in, believe that He never will bring you this far to leave you. Hunker down. Next couple of years gonna be a little rough. But weeping endures for a night and joy comes in the morning. It'll get better. The sun still rises and still sets. God is in everything, even your troubles. Weapons form, but they do not prosper. Yeah. Stay adapted to normal. Stay adapting to a world that was not designed for you, that may not see how brilliant and beautifully made that you are, and that's okay. Let's keep pushing. Have a great rest of your July. I gotta get ready for school tomorrow. And just to keep living my life. I don't know what I'm going to talk about next time. It's going to be wherever the wind blows. I'm just playing. I know what I'm going to talk about. Go get into me in school. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But as always, I am Mary. I am Hot Wheels. I really don't need a seat at the table. I just need you to clear a spot and let me roll up to it. That's it. That's all. I don't want to hold you, and I know you don't want to be held. So y'all have a great evening or morning, whenever you watch me. You know what I mean? Just have a good day.